This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Board of Selectmen meeting. And we appreciate you being here. My name is Mike Frieda, North Haven's first selectman, and I'm with Mr. William Piper, our second selectman, and our third selectwoman, Ms. Sally Buemi. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 2, any comments to our agenda, any public comment to the existing agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move to item number 3. Approval of the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from September 4th. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 4, and we're going to read a consideration here tonight, and I'll turn it over to Sally and Bill for the reading of it, but I'm going to set the stage by saying that the biggest problem we've had in town right now is speeding, reckless driving, cars traveling through bus stop signs that are down off the side of the bus, and also street takeovers. So this week, we had a town meeting here and 2 resolutions or 2 ordinances were passed. And the first one was speed cameras and bus cameras, the first 2, I should say. So we're moving forward with that. We see the retrofit on that probably not until the beginning of 2026. The police department are working on that, working with the Department of Transportation. So tonight, we have our town attorney, Jennifer Coppola, here. And tonight, we're going to be addressing street takeovers. And you've probably seen this a lot on various press conferences. I've been in 3 press conferences on this. Myself, mayors and first selectmen from all over the area. And the idea here is this. Even this past Sunday, I was at a Rotary Club event in Washington Avenue at the fairgrounds. And coming out, what do you see? 150 bikes, ATVs, dirt bikes, basically doing wheelies, taking over our streets. And quite frankly, as I said in a press conference, I'm fed up, we're disgusted as elected officials, and we're not going to take it anymore. So now we're going to move forward with reciting how this ordinance is going to be constructed. And you'll hear some of the consequences and what we're going to do if we catch people trying to take over our streets. And there'll be various fines, there'll be confiscation, and this is the 4th time now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this. I'm going to use this as an expression, because I've already done it at least 3 times. We're not only going to confiscate these vehicles, we're going to crush them. And I said this even at a press conference last week. Because we have to take control of our streets. I think there's been a level of lawlessness and recklessness out there, and sometimes the police department's hands tend to be tied, but it's through these ordinances that we can help restore law and order to the streets of North Haven. And by the way, it's not only just North Haven, it's everywhere. All over the state of Connecticut, cities and towns are going through this. And this is a Republican and Democratic initiative. We all see this the same way. Every time there's a street takeover, and I've been in 3 of them now, stuck in 3 street takeovers. Every single time, the police department, they get calls, we get calls, I get calls. And it's, what can we do? What are we doing to stop this? Tonight, we're going to have our town attorney present this. Tonight is the first step before we do a town meeting, how we're going to stop this from moving forward. So with that being said, I'd like to ask either Sally or Bill to at least tee this up by reading that paragraph.
I'll read item 4 on the agenda. It says, to consider and vote upon whether to recommend that the town meeting adopt Article 2 of Chapter 190, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, to the ordinances of the town of North Haven entitled Illegal Use of Certain Motor Vehicles and Street Takeovers, to regulate the operation and use of snowmobiles, all-terrain vehicles, dirt bikes, and mini bikes, and prohibit a person from organizing, participating in, or gathering with intent to observe or actually observing a street takeover. So we got to consider that.
Yes. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer as she's walking to the podium. I'm going to tell you one last story to tee this up, that on Universal Drive, we saw, unfortunately, some people get hurt. But they were the organizers of the event, and they got hurt, and they organized it. So in a press conference here, and actually this happened in Town Hall where all the news media came in, and I was asked if I had any sympathy. I said, absolutely not. If you're an organizer and you get hurt because of your own organization, I have no sympathy. And that's how I feel about this. If they were bystanders, it's much different, but they weren't. So the news media said to me, so Mr. Frieda, what are you going to do about it? And this is exactly what I did. I'll note the expression. We're going to arrest all of them. We're all going to get arrested, just like that. And sure enough, it took 4 months. They all got arrested. So we're fed up with it, folks. We're not going to take it anymore. And that's the purpose of this. Jennifer?
So I am going to go through quite a bit of this because there's, you know, the provisions are somewhat involved. And the impetus behind this, as the first selectman indicated, is our activities that a number of municipalities have witnessed and had to find some way to respond to from an enforcement standpoint. But the legislature passed Public Act number 25-80 this past year, and it is entitled An Act Concerning the Illegal Use of Certain Vehicles and Street Takeovers, so that's where I actually took the proposed name of the ordinance from. And the ordinance itself, and I was thinking as I was listening to you, Mr. Frieda, I was thinking that perhaps what we can do is take the 3 ordinances with regard to this issue again. We've created a new chapter for your Code of Ordinances, Chapter 190, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, and maybe do a web page that has the ordinance language on it, as well as some of the statutory background so people understand, you know, where the provisions are coming from and how closely they are tied to the statutes. This particular ordinance, it's based on language in Section 14-224, 14-390, excuse me, and 14-390M. 14-224 is our statute that concerns evasion of responsibility and operation of motor vehicles, racing contests, demonstrations of speed or skill or street takeovers, required removal of motor vehicle from traveled portion of the highway, and penalties. 14-390 is our statute entitled Municipal Regulation of Operation and Use of Snowmobiles and All-Terrain Vehicles, penalties, seizure, and forfeiture. And then 14-390M is Municipal Regulation of Operation and Use of Dirt Bikes and Mini Motorcycles on Public Property, penalties, seizure, and forfeiture. As I explained the other night during the annual town meeting, our authority, again, to enact these ordinances as a municipality comes from state statute, and so much of the language that you see in the ordinance is direct language from the statutory authority. As with all ordinances, we have in our citation to authority and our declaration of purpose set out at the start. Definitions, we have a prohibited acts and violations section, penalties for violations, and then the due process portion, a right to a hearing on a citation and matters related to the conduct of that hearing, post-assessment procedure, because following a citation hearing officer enters an assessment, so post-assessment procedure and right to appeal assessment. And then we have the seizure of motorized recreational vehicles, sale and disposal, which is something that the first selectman mentioned, and then our typical severability, repealer, and effective date. So the language that was read as part of the agenda item and also the resolution, that is actually directly from the statute. So authority and declaration of purpose pursuant to the authority granted in sections 1, 2, and 3 of Public Act 2580 of the 2025 session of the Connecticut General Assembly, codified in the Connecticut General Statutes as may be amended from time to time. The town of North Haven hereby regulates the use of snowmobiles, all-terrain vehicles, dirt bikes, we have a typo there. How did I miss that? Mini motorcycles, that'll be corrected before it's posted for the town meeting. And prohibits a person from organizing, participating in, or gathering with intent to observe or actually observing a street takeover within the boundaries of the town. So the purpose, of course, of this ordinance is to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of residents by prohibiting the misuse of vehicles, which can result in serious bodily injury and death, cause property damage and trespass, and create a public nuisance. And we have many definitions. Again, those definitions and much of them do refer to the specific statutory language and provide the site. We've got a definition for all-terrain vehicle, dirt bike, electric personal assistive mobility device, or EPAMD, mini motorcycle, motor-driven cycle, motorized recreational vehicle dealer, snowmobile, and street takeover. Prohibited acts and violations. This is section 190.18. The following acts are prohibited within the town of North Haven and shall constitute a violation of this ordinance. And there are 4. Subsection A is, it shall be unlawful for a person or group of people to organize, participate in, or gather with the intent to observe and actually observing a street takeover. B is, it shall be unlawful for any person to operate a motorized recreational vehicle or for any owner of a motorized recreational vehicle to knowingly permit the operation of such vehicle on any street or sidewalk in the town or on any public property, including but not limited to school property, playgrounds, and parks within the town. C, it shall be unlawful for any person to ride as a passenger on a motorized recreational vehicle or for any owner of a motorized recreational vehicle to knowingly permit any person to ride as a passenger on such vehicle operated in violation of subsection B above. D, it shall be unlawful for any person to operate a motorized recreational vehicle, ride as a passenger on a motorized recreational vehicle, or for any owner of a motorized recreational vehicle to knowingly permit its operation on any private property within the town without first obtaining the written permission of the property owner, if the property is not owned by the operator, passenger, or owner of such vehicle. The penalties for violation are in section 190.19. Any person who violates 190-18 of this ordinance shall be, for number 1, fined $1,000 for the first violation, fined $1,500 for the second violation, and fined $2,000 for the third or subsequent violation. 2, any vehicle used in violation of this ordinance shall be impounded until any fine imposed pursuant to this ordinance is paid. Any related charges, including but not limited to towing and storage fees, are paid, and any overdue property taxes on such vehicle imposed pursuant to Chapter 203 of the General Statutes are paid. B, So those are the first two pieces, okay? In A, which must be complied with. B, any person who operates any motorized recreational vehicle in violation of section 190-18 of this ordinance, or any owner of any motorized recreational vehicle who knowingly permits its operation in violation of section 190-18 shall be fined $1,000 for the first violation, shall be fined $1,500 for the second violation, and shall be fined $2,000 for the third or subsequent violation. Without limitation, any person acting in violation of this ordinance where such a violation causes damage to town property shall be liable to the town for civil damages to fully repair or replace said property. This includes damage to trees, shrubs, open space, fences, or any other property of the town of North Haven. D, any person in violation of this ordinance may be detained by a police officer for purposes of enforcing the provisions of this ordinance. And then E, any motorized recreational vehicle used in violation of this ordinance shall be seized by any police officer and shall be forfeited to the town, as detailed in section 190-22 of this ordinance, subject to any bona fide lien, lease, or security interest in the motorized recreational vehicle as described in section 14-390 of the general statutes, including but not limited to a lien under section 14-66C of the general statutes. We're going to go into the right to hearing, section 190-20. Any person against whom an assessment or fine has been entered for violating the provisions of this ordinance shall be entitled to a hearing to contest the alleged violation before a citation hearing officer appointed by the town to hear such matters in accordance with section 7-152C of the general statutes, the provisions of which statute relating to the hearing procedure and decision process are included herein, adopted, and made herein a part of by reference. Post-assessment procedure and right to appeal assessment, that's contained in section 190-21. And that is based very specifically on section 7-152C, subsection F of the general statutes, and it does have, again, very specific detail about what that post-assessment process is. Again, as I explained on Monday night, citation hearing procedure pursuant to 7-152C is a form of due process that we afford people to contest any violation of any ordinance pursuant to our state law. It is a quasi-judicial hearing procedure. It's somewhat relaxed, and it would be held at town hall or another town facility, and presiding over it will be a citation hearing officer that will be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, again, to afford people an opportunity to contest a citation that's issued pursuant to the ordinance. The hearing is held, and the person contesting is allowed to submit evidence, be it documentary or via testimony. The citation hearing officer enters a decision, and one possibility is obviously to fine against the person who was cited, and the citation hearing officer is the person that would enter the assessment that the town could then pursue a judgment on in Superior Court, and that is why we have section 190-21 in the ordinance to allow us to pursue a judgment. Should somebody contest, hearing officer enter an assessment, then we can go that next step and get a judgment or pursue remedies to collect that judgment. 190-22, I'm going to read much of this. It's the last section that I'm going to read because the remaining have to do with severability, repealer, and the effective date of the ordinance. So 190-22 is entitled Seizure of Motorized Recreational Vehicles, Sale and Disposal. any motorized recreational vehicle operating in violation of section 190-18, so that's the violation section, prohibition section, of this ordinance, whose owner knowingly permitted its operation in violation of this ordinance, shall become subject to impoundment and to confiscation by and forfeiture to the town. The North Haven Police Department or any authorized state police officer is hereby authorized to confiscate any such vehicle used in violation of this ordinance and to hold same as evidence in any related criminal proceeding pending disposition. Any vehicle impounded may only be released to the owner upon proof of registration and subject to payment of any and all fines and towing, storage, and other fees incurred and any overdue property taxes on such vehicles. So that's a repeat of that language that you heard earlier. If the town confiscates a motorized recreational vehicle used to violate this ordinance, the vehicle shall be deemed forfeited to the town if after 6 months following such impoundment, the owner or lien holder of the impounded vehicle has failed to pay all outstanding fines, charges, fees, and taxes due. The town may conduct the procedure set forth in Connecticut General Statute Section 54-33G and sell it at a municipally conducted public auction, or if the vehicle is an all-terrain vehicle, dirt bike, or mini motorcycle, it may be destroyed by the town pursuant, so there's a special carve-out for those types of vehicles, pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 14-390C and 14-390M subsection C. The sale proceeds from the auction shall be paid to the town for deposit into the town's general fund. Notwithstanding, the sale proceeds shall first be used to satisfy any bona fide lien, lease, or security interest, including a lien for towing and storage, and storing a vehicle, rather. Proof that, 1, an all-terrain vehicle, dirt bike, or mini motorcycle was stolen from the owner at the time of such violation, or 2, the violation was due to someone else's act or omission if the owner or lien holder did not know and could not have reasonably known that the vehicle was used or was intended to be used in violation of a municipal ordinance, shall be a defense to the confiscation and forfeiture of such vehicle. Such owner or lien holder may collect the vehicle not later than 90 days after the date the town A posts notice on the town website indicating that such vehicle shall be forfeited if not collected within such a 90-day period, and B, mails such notice to such owner or lien holder. B, any motorized recreational vehicle, in the case of a vehicle being held as evidence, not claimed by its owner within 45 days of the cessation of such investigation or disposition of such criminal proceeding, whichever is later, may be disposed of at the direction of the chief of police after serving notice in the same manner as that required for the disposal of abandoned vehicles under Connecticut General Statute Section 14-150, subsection E, except in the case that a vehicle that is not registered, such notice shall not require mailing to persons whose names are registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles. Again, severability and repealer sections come next, and the effective date will be 15 days after publication in the newspaper of a summary of the ordinance, because we won't publish the whole ordinance. But so that's it in totality. And again, the language, it's very, very specific. It's dictated by statute as required in order for us to be able to enforce it. It's very important that we don't vary from the statutory language. And, you know, I was asked the question, well, why doesn't it have seizure of motor vehicles? So there are other laws that allow the police to actually seize motor vehicles. And I think that, you know, the legislature probably felt, you know, that was not necessary to change at this point. They wanted to specifically focus on these types of vehicles because of the fact that, you know, there's other methods under the statutes to be able to deal with motor vehicles that are involved in a crime. So, but the chief, your new chief, reviewed very closely the ordinance, reviewed the public act, And, the codified statutes had no changes to recommend. He unfortunately could not be here tonight to comment, but I do want to represent that he did look closely at it.
All right, so before we turn it over to Bill and Sally for comments, as I said from the beginning of this meeting, that our goal is to take back the streets of North Haven, whether it's speeding, reckless driving, accidents, in this case, street takeovers. We're not going to take it anymore, as I said before, because even this past Sunday, for those that just joined us a few moments ago, they took over Washington Avenue, 150 dirt bikes, ATV vehicles. So we, as a regional task force of all the mayors in the area, and for selectmen, we are working with our respective police departments, and we're also trying to create additional intel, FBI, state police, and we've actually in the past year probably intercepted 2 street takeovers. One was on Washington Avenue, Northern Washington Avenue last year, through the intel that we received. So there's a lot of what's called chatter on the radio waves, let's say. So if they know that we're mobilizing in one direction, they'll go somewhere else. And what we've seen is they just don't come, in this case, to North Haven. They'll start in North Haven, or they'll start in Wallingford, or they'll start in Meriden and come right down Route 5, and they'll go into different cities and towns. They may either go on 91, they may either go through 91 to 95, could be Long Wharf, they're all over. And it's a chain of geographical areas they go to. Tonight's goal is to put this to a town meeting on October 27th. Tonight's goal is this Board of Selectmen will have to vote on whether to bring it to a town meeting. And I hope we get the resident support, because what I've seen senior citizens terrorized in street takeovers. I've seen very belligerent, aggressive behavior where those that are trying to take over our streets, pointing demonstratively against residents. In other words, don't even dare come and try to cut us off. So these are very traumatic things for our citizens. So, and I've said it many times before that when it comes to this, we do have a fundamental responsibility as local government to protect our citizens. And with the accidents that have occurred, the fatalities that have occurred, one just happened here in North Haven recently. On the highways, the number of accidents there where our police are deployed, our fire department's deployed. These are resources that the town is utilizing to try to reconcile recalcitrant behavior. And that's what's happening here. So tonight, I'll turn it over to Sally and Bill for any comments.
Where this Article 2 of Chapter 190 is really dealing with 2 separate issues: the illegal use of certain motor vehicles, like the all-terrain vehicles and dirt bikes, and then the street takeovers. Much of the description that you gave had to do with the all-terrain. You described this recent event. It was after the Rotary event at the North Haven Fairgrounds. When you first mentioned it, you said it was motorcycles. Then you said it was dirt bikes and all-terrain. It was a combination. Because that was my first question. When I've seen videos of these street takeovers, which are just horrible and frightening for anyone involved in them, but the videos that I've seen were usually motor vehicles. Would you say that the street takeovers I'm talking about now are, when you described how they travel down the highway and go get off the exit and do a takeover at this location and then continue on, are those are more likely, I would think, to be motor vehicles than although you said that this one recently had a combination of motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles.
Right.
So, for me, the biggest problem with all-terrain vehicles is seeing young kids ride around on them on what I consider country roads, where they could get seriously hurt. And I've seen close calls riding through like Northford and things like that. So it's my understanding, Counselor, that 14390's been around a while. Certainly the use of all-terrain vehicles and dirt bikes, those types of self-propelled vehicles have been illegal on streets and sidewalks for a long time. What we're doing here is we are adopting an ordinance with our own violation for that use, but it's been illegal for quite some time.
Well, of course.
Yes.
I mean, one of the things, and I know I've experienced it when I lived off of Upper State Street,
Yeah.
was, if there's snow on the ground, snowmobiles
yeah.
riding along the side of the road with you,
Right.
and ATVs. So, that trespass issue, certainly, I think the town has had complaints through the years.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
this is not new to make this unlawful, that's what I'm saying. But 14390 specifically authorizes municipalities to adopt their own ordinances on the issue.
Yes.
So, I don't want people to think, oh, wasn't this illegal before, or unlawful before? It certainly was. So, I'm certainly going to vote in favor of bringing this to a town meeting, and I support our effort. Anything that we could do as a municipality to highlight the problem is a good thing. But I want to make it clear that in my opinion, the street takeovers really, I'm not going to say never involved, because you saw them, but you mostly see cars and motorcycles participating in street takeovers.
Yeah,
I would think.
I would agree with you on that,
Yeah.
yes. I've seen it,
And that
yes.
we can't do any crushing of those kinds of vehicles, as you referenced. And of course, there's and I support the crushing, because that's the number one way to stop this, but I don't see it happening very often, because the statute, and of course our ordinance, which is controlled by the wording of the statute, has this language that no all-terrain vehicle could be forfeited or crushed if the owner or lien holder had no knowledge, or could not reasonably have known, that the ATV was going to be used as it was. And that's, of course, a pretty, whenever you have an issue of knowledge, it's going to create a lot of questions of fact. I mean, how many lien holders of a vehicle are going to know how the vehicle's being used? But it's still in there, and it should be in there, but it's a tough, there's a lot of hoops to jump through procedurally with the 90 days and the 6 months, and substantively with the knowledge requirement, or lack of knowledge requirement.
Well, the statute is the statute. I think
Right.
they wanted to start somewhere.
Yeah.
To see if this makes a difference.
I support the effort, but I don't want people to think every time they see an ATV on the road, oh, that's going to get crushed. A lot has to happen before that.
Yeah.
But I still support the effort, and I just hope it could help. I mean, to me, the prevention of street takeovers is more a question of law enforcement and a police presence. Then I don't think the folks that are organizing these street takeovers are worried about an ordinance, or, I mean, I would hope they'd be worried about the police showing up. So to me, that's the number one deterrent, is prompt police action. But also, you said that some of these street takeovers were prevented by knowledge about them happening in the first place. So actually, how does that, so you know that one is planned, but what do you do to prevent it from happening?
You organize this at several checkpoints, and a lot of times law enforcement is always reacting. They don't know where there's going to be,
Right.
God forbid, a crime. They don't know where there's going to be a street takeover.
Yeah,
so-
that's my point,
Right.
yeah.
So, but coming back to this, I think there's an important point of distinction that you mentioned, okay? So when we look at ATVs, you see the crushing mechanism here, okay? As far as actual street takeovers, what happens with a street takeover, and happened on Universal Drive, and it happened twice on Universal Drive. There's a situation where the police issue warrants for arrest, and then it takes weeks or a couple of weeks, whatever it may be, to secure those warrants. In the case of Universal Drive, where near PC Richards, there was a street takeover, and there were cars traveling in a circle.
The fire.
The fire.
Yeah.
So those are the ones I was referring to when I went like this earlier. We're going to arrest all of them. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And they all got arrested. So there is a distinction, as you mentioned. Okay, the ATVs, they're going to be 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, and they'll end up being crushed. You know what? I was down in New Haven with some other mayors, and we crushed 19 ATVs down in New Haven the other day. So street takeovers, there is a point of distinction. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's a point I was going to make as well, is those, in terms of arresting some of these people who participate or organize, it's not in our ordinance, it's in the state statute, if I'm reading it correctly. You know, I think I'm looking at this section here that says, first time if they're found guilty, shall be a Class A misdemeanor for the first offense and Class D felony for any subsequent offense, et cetera, you know. So, you know, I think our ordinance doesn't really adjust the,
Well, you can't arrest, you can't arrest
right.
pursuant to an ordinance.
Say again?
You can't arrest pursuant to an ordinance, that's the penal code.
right, that's exactly the
statutes.
point. But I want anybody listening tonight to know that it's not in our ordinance, it's in the state law.
Well,
that
the
they
criminal,
can be arrested
the
and
criminal
criminally charged.
Yeah,
correct?
the criminal penalty, but
Right.
subsection A of 190-18, it shall be unlawful for a person or group of people to organize, participate in, or gather with the intent to observe and actually observe a street takeover. So they can get cited for violation of the ordinance, and they can get a $15,000 or 15,000. I wish it was 15,000.
I do too.
I think this is ridiculous, but
I agree.
$1,000 for the first violation.
Yeah.
But can they also be then charged with a
Yes.
misdemeanor, you know, and have that on their record?
There's nothing that prohibits that in the statute from them being criminally prosecuted as well.
Well, I think the
for it.
statute actually,
And-
the Senate version of the Connecticut general statute does describe that. That's what I'm reading right
yeah.
here.
The thing is about this, and I almost don't want to say it, but, you know, they're figuring out where it's happening because they have means of doing it, you know, and it's just like, you know, some of the illegal parties, you know, that we're hearing about, you know, that have become a problem in recent years where folks are organizing parties and you know, there's hundreds of people and they're taking over a neighborhood. North Haven has been fortunate that you've only had very limited circumstances of that, but, you know, it's a similar thing, you know, I mean, you know, these are new crimes, if you will, that we're trying to deal with, so.
What I did like also about the ordinance is it does just briefly mention in 190-18D, shall be unlawful for any person to operate a motorized recreational vehicle, right as a passenger motorized recreational vehicle, or any owner of a motorized recognized recreational vehicle, to not only permit its operation on any private property within the town, without first obtaining written permission of the property owner if the property is not owned by the operator, passenger, or owner of such vehicle. So in that case, I think the recourse is to call the police and have them arrested. Is that correct?
Well, again,
you're talking about two different
You're
things.
talking about two different things.
Well, the
You're
ordinance
talking about
doesn't
criminal.
specify what you need to do, other than the fact that it is illegal, I mean, based on the ordinance, to do that on somebody's personal property. And damages then would be, and we talk about damages to town property. We don't talk about damages to property that's not owned by the town.
If it's private property, it would be up to the private property owner to pursue a civil action to
How about a
recoup any
criminal action
damage.
to arrest them for trespassing?
Well, that is when they would call the police, absolutely.
The police-
And, yeah,
I just want people to understand that you know, that this doesn't necessarily, this ordinance, I think, as we've been talking about, you know, may impose fines and stuff like that, but doesn't have any criminal penalties inherent into it without actually some further
no,
action.
it can't.
It
It
can't.
can't have
It's civil.
criminal. It's
Right.
civil.
Completely, but there is criminal elsewhere in the, Connecticut general statutes, there is language that would bring criminal action against these parties for doing street takeovers or doing something similar on private property.
Absolutely.
Right, that's what I wanted everybody in the audience to understand. So we read through everything, it goes, geez, they're gonna pay a fine, what big deal, and maybe they'll get something confiscated. But there also could be a criminal aspect to this as well.
Yeah. I do think that these fines, they add up.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mike would love to arrest them, but he can't. We are just, to me, this ordinance, which is authorized by state statute, is a mechanism for us as a community to express our frustrations, which is what's going on, and doing what we can on a civil basis pursuant to the authorization in the statute to prevent, or not prevent, but to address these issues. The criminal has always been there and will always be there, the criminal illegal part. These are unlawful acts in violation of our ordinance, in which, after going through the procedural steps, we could assess civil penalties. And they're steeper. I like that, they were a little, I wish the $250 penalty for going through the bus stop sign was in this $1,000 range. I like the 1,000 and the 1,500, and it's a stronger statement, in my opinion, because money talks. So this is why I support it, because we, as a community, are doing what we can under the statute to say, as Mike said, we're not going to take it anymore.
Right.
Remember that movie?
Yeah, that was Network, right? William Holden, I think so. But anyway, coming back to this, I want to just make one other point here, okay? So I get calls on everything. Things I'm never even involved with, I get calls on. And many will say things I shouldn't get involved with, but I get calls, all kinds of calls, all day long. And it becomes quite a challenge to try to juggle everything here, because hundreds of people reach out for me every day. In the case of the police department, this is the point of the story. Many times I'll get calls, and this is where I have the backs of our police officers. I support them 1,000%. If there are motorcycles driving down, let's say, a street in town, and let's say it's Route 22, or let's say it's Clintonville Road, Kings Highway, and there's a police officer following the motorcycles, I'll get calls, what are the cops doing about it? How come they can't stop them? And here's what I always say, the cops are doing their job. The police are doing their job because they are guiding the motorcycles through the street to get out as quickly as possible. And then I take people through, and these sometimes are 15, 20-minute conversations I have, gobbling up a lot of time, but they're important explanations. Where the police will come into play is if they stop traffic and they get off their motorcycles and they're on Route 22 and they're stopping traffic, there's traffic jams. That's when they react. That's when they respond. If you see a police officer following motorcycles down a road, don't say, what are the cops doing about it? The cops are helping us from a safety standpoint, following them so the motorcycles know, or whoever it is, that there's a police officer or police officers following them to get them through the streets of North Haven.
Well, and I'll just make one comment, and it is in part a legal comment, but, again, we talk about modern times and the no chase policy, these are, it's not, we're not going back to the 70s or the 80s, things have evolved from a legal perspective, and there are limitations in the law, and that's, one of them. I know that is hard to understand for some people, for sure.
All right, so we I think we both have had some good comments. Who'd like to read the next?
I'll read it.
Why don't you do 5, Bill? I'll do 6.
Yeah, you do 6. Those aren't as good as they used to be. Let me get back to the agenda. Item number 5, resolve to recommend that the town meeting adopt Article 2 of Chapter 190, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, to the ordinances of the Town of North Haven entitled Illegal Use of Certain Motor Vehicles and Street Takeovers, to regulate the operation and use of snowmobiles, all-terrain vehicles, dirt bikes, and mini bikes, and prohibit a person from organizing, participating in, or gathering with intent to observe or actually observing a street takeover. Do I make that resolution?
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussions on this topic? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And I will read, well, actually, can we discuss briefly number 6 before I make
Yeah,
the
of course.
resolution?
Yes.
Item 6 on the agenda is the call for the town meeting, and it includes another matter besides what we've been talking about tonight with Article 2 of Chapter 190. We're going to be including on the agenda the usual and customary and required budget transfers for amounts exceeding $20,000 for the previous fiscal year, the 24-25 fiscal year. I always thought we had to do that at the annual town meeting, and I noticed town council unfortunately just left. That was my understanding, that we always had to do the budget transfer, and we've always done the budget transfer, even going back many years ago when I served on the Board of Finance at the annual town meeting. So this is okay that we're doing it at a later
Well,
time.
we had our Director of Finance clear that with Jeff D'Onofrio.
Okay.
So, for this time, yes. Val, would you like to weigh in on that, or no?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay,
That,
yeah.
I guess they weren't prepared in time
Right.
because of the audit.
Because of the audits, right?
Well,
And so there was a little bit of a delay, and so it's being done in October.
But it will.
You understand the nature of my question?
Historically, it always was done in September at the annual town meeting.
Okay,
And it
all
will
right,
be
but,
again. But that was, we had to get a special exception from the town attorney.
okay.
Because the
I just
orders-
wanted to make sure that we're following, because this issue of the budget transfers, I think, is more a state statute than it is our ordinances.
Yeah, and there's
I
nothing
mean,
in
our
the
charter,
charter that's,
excuse me.
yeah, there's nothing in the charter
Right.
that says that, and I think the bottom line is, or the most important thing is that it is taking place, so it's just taking place a month later.
Right.
I think the procedure, the procedure of doing it at the annual town meeting versus a special meeting, historically, it always was done that way, but
Right.
we're not able to do it this
Well,
time.
that's-
So but we're getting it done, and that's the
point, and it's.
That's the important part.
And Mr. D'Onofrio cleared that, so I'm sure it is within the statute. I just wanted to make sure, because it is a bit of a change from our normal and customary
deviation, yes.
mode of operation
yeah.
here. Okay, with that said, I'm satisfied with that. I will do number 6. I'll make a motion resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby call for a special town meeting to be held on Monday, October 27th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the upstairs conference room number 1 of the North Haven Memorial Town Hall, 18 Church Street, North Haven, Connecticut, to conduct the following business. A, consider and act upon a resolution in accordance with the recommendation of the Board of Finance concerning the adjustment of appropriations of certain line items among the various departments in the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget, transferring amounts over $20,000 in the total sum of $1,134,878.66. And B, to consider and vote upon whether to adopt Article 2 of Chapter 190, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, to the ordinances of the Town of North Haven entitled Illegal Use of Certain Motor Vehicles and Street Takeovers, to regulate the operation and use of snowmobiles, all-terrain vehicles, dirt bikes, and mini bikes, and prohibit a person from organizing, participating in, or gathering with intent to observe or actually observing a street takeover. So I will move that call as read.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second Sally's motion.
Very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, number 7.
Number 7, I'll move for to accept the resignation of Susan Danhofer, 1277 Mount Carmel Avenue, from the Conservation Commission, term to expire August 31st, 2028.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Just a note to thank Susan for her years of service here. We appreciate it very much, and we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And number 8, I will move acceptance of the property tax refunds reflected in our agenda on page 2.
I'll second Sally's
Page 2 and
motion.
3. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Page 2 and 3. I didn't
I'm
realize
sorry.
what a
I didn't
long
mean to
list
cut
it
you
was
off.
until I looked at all these that I have to sign here.
I'm sorry.
So I will move that.
Okay,
And I'll second.
all right, we have a motion
sorry.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 9, the next regular meeting of this Board of Selectmen is Thursday, November 6th at 6:30 PM here in the upstairs conference room at North Haven's Town Hall. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the point of public comment. Mary White.
Mary White, Summer Lane. I have 2 topics tonight. The first one is Tom and I are in support of the illegal use of certain motor vehicles in street takeovers ordinance. It is a matter of public safety. As I mentioned previously, Tom and I were caught in 2 street takeovers. One was on Middletown Avenue and one was on the Route 40 connector. They were different takeovers. So one was electric bikes, motorcycles, mini bikes, dirt bikes, all kinds of bikes, and that was the type on Middletown Avenue. And cars, that was the other type on the Route 40 connector. So both times we were surrounded, stuck, and scared, and it is a terrible feeling to be helpless and to be worried about your safety. So I encourage people to attend the Monday, October 27th special town meeting here at Town Hall, 6 p.m., and vote yes. My second topic is I'm looking for some advice regarding a situation I read about on social media. So on George Street, a transient homeless person went on someone's property and into their shed. Private owners asked the person, or the owners asked the person to leave, stating this is private property, and the person refused to leave. So the police were called, and it is my understanding the police said to the homeowners that they need to post no trespassing signs, and that the police can't arrest someone for trespassing without the no trespassing signs posted, so the person can see there is no trespassing allowed via the sign. So the person moved to another property. So here is my question, asking for advice. Should property owners purchase no trespassing signs to prevent trespassers and to be able to have the police arrest a person who is trespassing on their private property?
Well, it's really a question for the police, but I'm going to answer it for you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Because the story got intertwined with 2 separate subjects.
Okay.
And the 2 separate subjects were, it was first portrayed that it was a squatter.
Okay.
So there's a big difference between a squatter and a trespasser, believe it or not. A squatter, and we've had this over on Pierpont Road off of Mill Road years ago. A squatter took possession of a home that was up for sale. The squatter actually had electricity put in, water put in, and adverse possession is the law, okay? Connecticut has a law that says anybody who is occupying someone else's property is considered a squatter. And in order to get that squatter out of there, the property owner has to have a court order to extricate that individual. The police cannot extricate the individual without a court order. So there was a lot of confusion on social media on this, Mary, okay? So the police officer said, thinking that it's a squatter issue, that in order for us to respond, you can put no trespassing signs up, because that's part of the law in Connecticut. So the police officer was thinking one thing about a squatter, but trespassing is different. You could certainly put no trespassing signs up. People do that all over town. The police have a lot more authority if someone's trespassing, going through a garage, stealing a bike, let's say, okay? That's different than squatting. So there's a big distinction between the two. So yes, the police said you can put no trespassing signs up. Anybody can do that. But the police need the no trespassing signs to help enforce the squatter issue. If someone's trespassing, you can call 911 if they're rummaging through your garage. The police can come out there at that point. It's not necessarily tied into no trespassing. No trespassing signs for trespassers tends to be a deterrent. But it's the squatter issue that got jumbled up in this story for some reason.
I
So
see.
see the point of distinction. Squatters, adverse possession, you can't get them out. It took us months with our police department to get that squatter out of that house that year. Months. Because you had to wait for a court order. And now the law states that even with that, the police can come into play. Once a court order is given, the police can forcibly remove a squatter from that resident,
Okay.
that house. So you see the distinction, Mayor? You see the two?
Okay,
different-
yeah,
okay?
so if a person who doesn't belong on private property
Right.
goes upon the property, and they're hanging out, but they haven't, like, established residency there, that is considered trespassing, correct?
Yes.
And the homeowners, the property owners, can call the police, and the police can come, and if the person is still there, maybe they've only been there for an hour or 2-3 hours, you're saying the police can come and say, you need to leave, you don't live here,
Right.
you don't own this property.
Right.
The police can tell this person to leave if they're still
Yes.
there when the police get there,
Right. And there's a third.
without a sign.
Right, without a sign. There's a
Right.
third part to the story, the same story. In that area, in certain businesses, there's homeless people there. And sometimes, the homeless people, if they're not told to leave by the property owners, and they're sleeping under a roof, let's say, or an awning at a plaza, they sometimes will go into areas. And it becomes a little bit more difficult because the police then will try to usher them out and move them out of that area. Because from a homeowner standpoint, and I know the family, I talked to the family on this very issue, you can't have young children living in a house and you got people traversing through your backyard at night, late at night, going into a garage and looking for things. But it's much different than a squatter. That's what I wanted to portray here. It's much different. I think that maybe it was portrayed maybe as a squatter issue, and that's a lot more difficult. But in reality, it was a trespasser, and in reality, it was probably somebody who was homeless.
Okay, I
Okay.
see. Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mayor. Okay.
And it is something fundamentally wrong with our state, that we could have a law called adverse
Possession.
possession. I couldn't even get it out, that somebody could do that. I think there are other states that would not allow that.
Right.
So that's another fundamental, thing that's wrong with Connecticut in terms of the no pursuit law as well that we just talked about earlier. Where I think it's misguided, and so is this thing on adverse possession. It's not like you have. I could definitely see, somebody that has a lease or is, renting a property maybe that needs to be evicted or go through a different process. But somebody that, that illegally occupies your property should not have any right to continue to stay there. So I think that's, another fundamental problem with how law is in Connecticut. It's horrible.
Okay, we got a couple hands here. but-
Adverse possession isn't new isn't just exclusively Connecticut. It goes back a very long time, part of our common law.
Well,
And
that's
it was
the problem.
actually a
That's the
way,
problem.
it was actually a way to claim title to property. If you, adverse possession means you're possessing the property without the knowledge of the owner, and if you, the traditional common law definition is if you've adversely possessed for 15 years, you could claim title. Isn't that how you recall property law school, Mr. Cohen?
15
15
yeah.
years.
We're talking 15 years,
Yeah,
we're not
but
talking
that's
15 minutes.
No, I know,
That's the difference.
I'm telling you the
I've lived in
traditional.
Texas, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing that in Texas. Trust me.
There's, yeah.
Look,
I've lived in Texas 3 times.
No, I'm just saying, adverse possession is part of our common law. It is not,
Definitely ain't part of common law in Texas.
Okay.
It might be.
Brian Testa, I saw your hand there, then we'll get to the rest of the questions here, okay? So,
I'll make this quick so we can go watch our baseball games and
Oh, yeah.
football
Thank
games.
you.
Brian Testa, Maple Avenue. First thing, on the speed cameras. I forgot to mention this the other night, but I was reading about on September 17th, Congress is entertaining a new act, Automated Speed Enforcement Act, which threatens to suspend 10% of funds, federal funds going to states who allow cities and towns to enact these speed cameras unless it's in school zones or construction zones. Has that impacted or impeded your plan moving forward, now that we have the ordinance?
right.
This,
Well, not now, not right now, because.
it hasn't been approved yet, but it's kind of scary that they're doing this.
Well, because the plan right now in the initial rollout is to go through speed zones, so we're gonna be in compliance with that, and we're gonna see
School
how.
zones.
School zones,
Right.
school zones, school zone areas where there's speeding, okay? So, we could encounter that, but we're not there yet, because the rollout's gonna be just what we said, school zones.
And this tees my up to the police, because after the meeting, a lot of the print media really didn't explain the ordinance well. The only one that really did was a citizen paper, so I gotta give them credit. A lot of social media were worried about, they're gonna put the cameras on Maple Avenue and Washington. A lot of print didn't put that out.
Right.
The citizens did, where they put out, said, what's gonna go, your plan right now is the school zones.
Right.
Which I wish the press did it, because there was a lot of chatter on social media, which I won't say misinformation, but they were misinformed. They didn't,
Yeah, there's a lot of misinterpretation. There
Yes,
really was.
that's what
I
I'm-
had to take one of the reporters through twice, because he didn't understand it.
oh, that's the whole point.
Right.
And I got involved with some
Right.
chatter saying, it's only right now, from what I read,
Right.
school zone, so.
Plus, it's also, another issue that has surfaced, social media also, is that people are complaining that Big Brother's looking over them.
Or it's a money grab.
Right, a money grab. But the reality is, they're gonna be clearly signed, they're gonna be clearly identified, these are speed zones. So, if I'm in a car, and I get a ticket driving through an area for speeding, but I've already seen the sign that says this is a speed camera zone, I will look in the mirror and say, I deserve to get the ticket. You shouldn't be complaining about that.
Well, like Sally said, money talks. Make a mistake, all right, you learn, you lick your wounds and say, I'm not gonna do it again. I know it's hard to stay at 25 miles an hour on the roads, or 35 on my, I get it, but.
Well, you
it's
get a warning the first time.
Right, but it's
So that's
important,
actually,
especially
you know,
in the school
reminder.
zones. We know it, but every street, it's important.
In the last 3 years, Brian, I've had over 1,000 calls and emails on speeding in the town. It's like I was saying earlier, I get calls on everything. And could you imagine the time it took to return all those calls and those emails over 3 years? So now we're doing something about it. And for the most part, everybody was on board. I talked to some people afterwards who weren't on board, and I explained the whole process. And they may not like it, but they understand it, okay?
Just
So-
like I said that night, we're forcing you, the legislative body, to legislate common sense and civility.
Right.
If we all just slowed down, we wouldn't have to have these laws. But like the chief said, best case scenario, that we make zero money, that means it's working.
Right.
So-
So you were clear on that the other night. I thought you handled that very well by saying that at the town meeting, so thank you for that. Yep.
I just thought it was more common sense.
Yep.
This tees my up for the police, because they took a little bit of a hit with the money. 48 hours ago, we had a very close friend of our family, young girl was went missing. And I want to give kudos to the chief, the police department. They did a phenomenal job within about 6 hours of finding this young girl. She's safe. They worked with other towns, state police. The family appreciates it. I can't imagine what my friends are going through. So to the police, thank you. They did a phenomenal job. We have an incredible police force, and they did a phenomenal job. So I know they're going through a lot, but they appreciate it. I talked to them today, and they were just, cannot praise them enough. They really stepped it up. It's stuff that you don't hear about. You hear the bad. And even the residents, they shared it on social media. I think over 1,000 shares to find this young girl. And I think that had a lot to do with it throughout the Tri-City area. So, and lastly, I want to wish you guys good luck in the election. Mr. Cohen.
Thank you.
Sally, you too. Known you for 12 years. We've had many, many conversations over years. We may not have agreed on everything, but no one can dispute your passion and your love for the town. You always thought the best of the town. Everybody has a different path to get to there, but you always, I think, did the best. You always thought the best for the town, so I want to say thank you.
I would prefer that you use the present tense, not the past tense.
You're still there.
I am still here.
You're
and
still
hope-
there, and you're still doing it. So,
And I'm
wanna
sure
say
I will continue to be here.
good luck. I know, Mike, you're not there's no contest for your position, but I know you're both up. I want to just say good luck to both of you. I hope everybody comes out and votes every election. I don't care if it's for dog catcher or for president. Every vote is important, and good luck to both everybody. And thank you. I'm going to go home and watch a baseball game.
Okay, Brian, thanks. Tom, I know you had your hand up. Come on. We have two Toms here, okay? So, Tom White, go ahead. Tom, I'll come back to you after this, okay? So,
Tom White, Summer Lane.
yeah.
In my 3 decades with New Haven PD, about 20 years of it, I was the custodian of impounded vehicles. So it's important, I think, for law enforcement to know, or anybody that's charged with the release of those vehicles, every motor vehicle that's manufactured, the initial document is a certificate of origin for a motor vehicle. The only time it converts to a title is when it's registered in the state of Connecticut. So oftentimes when I was approached and SUVs or ATVs or quads were deemed, appropriate to release, I demanded that certificate of origin from the owner of the vehicle. Otherwise, I didn't release it to them. Any bill of sale is a counterfeit transfer of ownership in the absence of that certificate of origin. So it's important for law enforcement to know that. They're not obligated to release that to a quote-unquote owner without that certificate of origin. So when that happened, and I wasn't able to determine who the owner was, I released it. The first entity that had a claim to the vehicle was the tow company that towed it for impound. So I released it to them, and they applied for ownership through the state of Connecticut under the abandoned statute. So it's just important to know that's just another piece of leverage to keep them off the road. I kept a lot of ATVs and dirt bikes off the road when I was with New Haven before this stuff even started. I had hundreds that they impounded, so I kept a lot off the street with that.
Okay, Tom, thank you.
And Tom, based on your background and what I know, about you, if I was in a street takeover with you, I wouldn't be scared at all. So I know Mary was exaggerating a little bit, but she was with you. So.
Tom, come on up.
What are y'all doing today?
Good, how you doing, Tom?
Not too
Good.
bad.
Good.
I'm here to see what your results were.
All right, so we got Rich here, and our results are, we have 3 options. Either try to start the pickleball at 10 o'clock. We had the police look at the netting. It's about $47,000. We don't know, though, if there's enough viscosity to stop the sound. But we're also looking in on the noiseless pallets, the
They can talk
rackets.
about.
Right. So I'll tell you what I'd like to do with you there, Thomas. We're going to have you come in and meet with Rich and I. Want to finalize this one way or another. I'll reach out for you, have you in town hall. We'll try to see, figure out the solution, okay?
As I was telling her today, every night I have to go out there and ask people to leave. Because the sign says dusk, so I
Right.
give them like 10, 15 minutes after sunset.
Yep.
Every night I gotta go out there. Folks,
So,
please leave.
can I ask you this? We'll bring you back in, of course, but take me through that again. What time has that been that you have to go out there with these?
I normally, well, everything say today, sunset was at 6:30 today, I think it was.
Right.
So I would go out there normally about 10 minutes after it passed sunset. People are still playing. I would go out there nicely and say, folks, I hate to do this to you, but the town orders it says dusk, so
Yes.
it's kind of vague.
Right.
You're supposed to have been out of here by now.
Okay.
Most people will leave. I've had several that pass, oh, give us a few more minutes, give us a few more minutes.
Yeah.
I go back out again. Oh, we're not done. I gave you time, folks. Please don't make me make a phone call.
And Tom, what time would that have been? Like the story you just shared here, what time would that be at night that you had to go back out and say, please, what time?
Well, see, the other day I was out there, I think sunset was at 6:40, and this was 7:50.
7:50, an hour.
This was 6:50, I'm sorry. It was 6:30, I have it on my phone. It was like 6:30, and it was I think it was 6:40, so it was like around after 7 o'clock.
Okay, all right.
You know?
All right, thank you. So we're gonna call you back. We're gonna come in probably late next week. I'm gonna call you. Rich and I will meet with you and see if we can map this out.
Okay, no problem.
Okay,
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got my number still?
Okay. All right, any other?
You're not fine?
All right, well, seeing no other public comment, we'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
So moved?
I'll second.
Second? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. See you next month, okay? So, thanks.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.